I can see through the whole internet with this. This is so cool. Oh, sorry. Good morning. It's Monday, November 17th, 2008. And this is WFTL Bytes, your occasiodaily FOSS and Linux news show with your host, me, Marcel Gagné. Some fun stuff in today's news, some interesting stuff, some dastardly stuff. But first, I must put on my press hat so that I can appear respectable as I tell you today's news. At the top, I have something incredibly interesting to tell you about from the blog of Helios. He points out today that Microsoft has a new ad campaign, Life Without Walls. Doesn't that sound a little bit like in a world without fences, who needs gates, that sort of thing? Anyway, Microsoft's new campaign is particularly interesting because they have adopted, wait for it, the Linux mascot as one of their symbols. Yes, indeed. On the blog of Helios, he noticed that there were billboards up, and particularly in Austin, Texas, where he's driving through, and he snapped a picture of them. Although down here in the links below, I can actually give you pictures to other places where you get sharper, better pictures of that particular billboard. But here's the scoop. Yes, Microsoft has adopted the Linux penguin, the penguin, symbol of the Linux operating system, as one of their symbols for their Life Without Walls campaign, for their upcoming, whatever it is that's upcoming at Microsoft at this moment. Should we be shocked? Should we be upset? Should we be going a little bananas on this whole thing? Is Microsoft just saying, hey, Linux is so good and so cool that we must do something to make users think that we're a Linux-like company? Or perhaps all Microsoft is doing is giving us the bird in this campaign? You decide. Go read the blog of Helios and go check out some of the other pictures that I've got in the links below. Over at Computer World, you might recall last week that I told you that Sun was slashing 6,000 jobs due to the nasty economy and, of course, people not buying big expensive servers. Well, Microsoft, I apologize for that, I'm still in the last story. Jonathan Schwartz, CEO of Sun Microsystems, says, and I quote, that they are pre-configured for the downturn, and it looks like they're banking on their open source offerings to help them through these tough economic times, specifically things like MySQL, which they acquired just last year, and of course OpenSolaris and VirtualBox and other offerings. Now, Sun is not exactly, starving yet. Sun has $3 billion in cash sitting in the bank, and last year had $14 billion in revenue, so they may yet weather this storm. Keep you posted. Over at IT Wire, they report that U.S. consumers prefer OpenOffice.org to Google Docs. Now, the reason that this is a story, or this is an interesting story at all, is that Google Docs was originally seen as the thing that Microsoft Office should be afraid of, the up-and-comer that was going to give them the real competition. Well, there's a company out there called Clickstream Technologies who decided to do a survey of 2,400 people and discovered that all in all, 5% of those users are using OpenOffice.org as opposed to 1% for Google Docs. Now, more than 50% of those people are actually using Microsoft Office. Interestingly enough, the study, as I understand it, did not cover Macintosh users or Apple users, if you will, and they also did not cover Linux users. So those numbers may be wildly different, but specifically, Microsoft users, it appears, are more interested in using OpenOffice.org than they are in using Google Docs. That's what the survey showed. Anyhow, the VAR guy points out that Dell continues to put ads in newspapers advertising their Inspire 9 netbooks preloaded with Ubuntu Linux. He claims that one of his sources over in Redmond is saying that Microsoft is having fits over this. In particular, because it's one thing to sell netbooks with Linux pre-installed, and of course one thing for Dell to sell these things. It's another thing to advertise them in newspapers where millions of users can see that these offerings exist with Ubuntu Linux just weeks before Christmas. It's just terrible. And of course, as Black Friday looms, that always seems like such a horrible, dastardly thing. And yet, it's a big shopping day, apparently, over in the United States. I'm up here in Canada, where we've already had Thanksgiving. But anyway, Mike Elgin writes about why you will buy a netbook this Christmas, or this Black Friday in particular. You know why? 1, netbooks are cheap. 2, People spending less money means they're looking for less expensive gifts to give. And in particular, one of the less expensive gifts is, hey, if you were thinking of buying somebody a notebook at Christmas or a desktop, you might look at a netbook because, you can get some of these things for like $300, right? 3, ASUS has made netbooks cool. What did I tell you? ASUS is out there making netbooks respectable, making them cool, and they're pushing a lot of Linux netbooks out there. Next, 4th piece, Wi-Fi is everywhere. You can go into your local Starbucks, you can go into your local fast food joint, and you've got Wi-Fi, so you can sit there on your little netbook and tell people, Twitter to the world, I am sitting in a Starbucks drinking a venti latte, and I am writing on a Linux-powered netbook. I don't know if that fits in 140 characters. And he does mention, however, gives you a lot of tips and tricks about how to get the best deal on Black Friday, how to avoid the scams, which always apparently exist on Black Friday. But he also tells you, and you ready for this? He says, watch out for Linux. Not that there's anything wrong with Linux, but you might be expecting something else. And you also want to watch out for Vista, because Vista doesn't run well on netbooks. XP is what runs well. You know what? I've got a piece of advice. My advice is XP may be good for some things. I'm not entirely sure what, but it may be good for some things, but it's not good for netbooks. You want a netbook that runs really well? Buy a netbook with Linux. That's my piece of advice. Black Friday, everybody's out there buying a netbook. Do your friends a favor. Do your family a favor. Tell them to forego that XP netbook and buy yourselves a Linux netbook. And that's it. I'm wrapping it up right here. Check out those ads, those Microsoft ads, Should we be worried? Are they really giving us the bird? Anyway, I'm done. I'll talk to you later. Bye. More coffee. No, seriously, I'm done. Bye.